The Tennessee Titans select Cameron Ward, quarterback, Miami. The New York Giants select Abdul Carter, defensive end, Penn State. The New York Jets select Armand Membu, Missouri, tackle. The New York Giants select Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi.
All right, with the 40th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Tyler Shuck, quarterback, Louisville.
With the 92nd pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks have selected my nephew, quarterback, Alabama, Jalen Milroe.
With the 94th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Dylan Gabriel, quarterback, Oregon.
So Dylan Gabriel is going to Cleveland. We just saw two more quarterbacks taken here in the third round, not named Shedeur Sanders.
With the 144th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, April the 30th, 2025. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other Mr. Radio Pete and Mr. Harry Lugnut. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, everybody. How'd you enjoy the draft?
That Cleveland Browns quarterback room is going to be really interesting.
It's going to be very, 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 very crowded in there.
Do you think Joe Flacco will know that he's on the Cleveland Browns by the time camp starts?
I honestly think Joe Flacco's, why wouldn't he start, right? Why wouldn't he start?
Yeah.
So, but
you want to get the veteran in there to show the young guys how to play.
At least game one, right? He gets game one. Kenny Pickett gets game two. Dylan Gabriel gets game three because he was just for the fact that he was picked before Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders gets the first quarter of game four and the third quarter of game four. And just,
well, maybe
they're going to try something new. They're going to try something new.
I'm guessing that this brings Cleveland's ineptitude to an all-new high.
All new level.
They are the benchmark, really.
Maybe
how could you screw it up even more?
Well, let's trade for a quarterback who couldn't even make it in Pittsburgh, who was a high draft pick, and then we'll pick two people to either double down on our history with quarterbacks, or they'll be geniuses. Who knows?
But
maybe they're gonna.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the quarterback they traded for is a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Kenny Pickett won a Super Bowl?
Wasn't he on the Eagles last year?
No.
Well, that's how he got a ring.
I don't know.
He's a Super Bowl ring winning quarterback.
He had fucking absolutely nothing to do with it.
He might have held the ball for a kick one.
I didn't know he was on the Eagles, actually. I would not have gotten that right.
Let's see if he I just got to double check that. I'm pretty sure he was
Who
still
cares?
He was on the Eagles. I just got to double check to see if he actually was on them for the Super Bowl, but I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah.
Well, either way, listen, maybe they'll trade the lot of them and
they might.
Somebody else.
They might. You never know.
I mean, they have to move somebody, obviously, but
how many quarterbacks do you keep? 3, right?
Yeah, 3, I think.
Should wear Sanders for the practice squad?
He won. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Yeah, he entered the game in the final moments to close out the victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. After a Super Bowl win, he was subsequently traded to the Cleveland Browns. There you go. So he has a Super Bowl ring, this gentleman. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
There you have it.
Well, listen, we can talk about all that in a minute, but as you know and love, what do we have to do first, John?
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
I thought this was going to be a web or Patreon exclusive.
Well, no, the web and Patreon exclusive is like 10 of them. We just get one to wet the whistle.
Let me tell you something. Let me let you in on a little secret.
Nobody cares.
Nobody's paying for this portion of the show.
We could probably get a couple of people to.
I think if any part of this show gets sponsored first, this is the part.
No, I think so too.
I completely disagree. The graphics are great.
Exactly.
And then once the content starts.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well, listen, it's sponsor the graphics.
All right, let's get it over.
We'll get Canva to sponsor the graphics. All right, here it is, meme of the week. Yes, indeed.
Due to the economy, due to the economy, 69 will now be 96. The cost of eating out has gone up.
There's a tariff on it.
Yeah, Little Darlings, I assume, is like a sub shop or something, right?
Little Darlings is a place, where you buy Easter dresses for your daughter.
I'm assuming it's a striptease establishment.
Oh, really?
Well, look, I'm looking at the graphic above the eye in Darlings.
We know, John. We were being
That's, well, anyway,
we know exactly what it is.
I was just being like droll and literal. That's all.
So yeah, price is going up. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
That's,
at least it wasn't misspelt Asian food.
For once.
And what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Although 96 can get.
Is there any other kind of Asian food that's not misspelled?
Misspelled Asian food. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's meme of the week, brought to you this week by Butt Rental.
Butt Rental.
The second half of their slogan is, "We don't know either."
Exactly.
Can't believe I agreed to this.
All right.
Well, you really.
All right, there you go.
I think you were outvoted. I believe.
It was. It's a simple majority, I think.
All right.
But
very simple.
Exactly.
So, where do we want to go first? Simple. We want to talk a little football first.
Oh, we definitely got to talk about the draft.
We got to do the draft and go over our picks.
We do,
and see how we did. All that jazz. So,
all that
about the draft
jazz.
first, and then do the picks second, or do the picks first?
Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about let's do the picks that we did and see where we all fleshed out, and then we'll talk about the draft itself.
All right, so let's start with the picks. In case you were actually tuning in to the last show, we did we picked the first who we thought were going to be the first 10 players selected and where they were going. And yours truly, John kept track. I actually went back and watched the show to make sure that I had everything right. And so let's take a look first up with our 1 through 5.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There we go.
So notice the scoring system in the lower right-hand corner. Mm-hmm. If you pick the player, the pick number, and the team right, you get 3 points, and you're in blue. Yellow's 2 out of 3. We had 1 of 3. I don't think there were any 1 out of 3 point designations. If you're just flat out wrong, like me, then you get 0 points. But if you were flat out wrong, but the guy you picked was in the top 10, you get half a point.
There you go.
John and I did pretty well.
So here you can see, you guys did great. We all had Cam Ward going first. You guys had Travis Hunter going second. I had Shedeur Sanders. The only reason you got 2 is because Jacksonville and Cleveland traded picks. So you had Hunter going to Cleveland, and he went to Jacksonville, so that was a 2-pointer. We all had Abdul Carter right. You had Will Campbell going number 4 to New England, so that was a 3. I had Travis Hunter, which was not right, but he was a top 10, so I get half a point there. Same thing with Mason Graham and Cleveland. You had Graham going, but again, you had him going to Jacksonville, and I had Membu going, and he was a top 10, so there's half a point there. So 13, 13, and 7 if you look all the way down on the bottom right. First round scores. 6 through 10 got a little ugly there towards the end. Mm-hmm. We started off hot, everyone with Ashton Genty. For 3, you guys had Membu going to the Jets, which I'm very happy with that pick. I'm glad it was not Tyler Warren. And then I actually outscored you through picks 8, 9, and 10. Mm-hmm. You guys took James Pierce Jr. going to Carolina with the number 8, but it was, I'm just going to call him Tet McMillan because I don't know how to pronounce his name. I had Mason Graham, which was a half-pointer. Same thing with New Orleans and Kevin Banks Jr. You guys thought Sanders was coming off the board then. I had Will Campbell, which was a half. And then Chicago throwing a little bit of a wrench with Colston Loveland as their number 10 pick. John, you had Tyler Warren. I had Javon Walker. And Harry had Tet McMillan, so he gets a half point there. And if you look down at the bottom, that was the difference between first and second place. Harry Lugnutz with the win with 19.5. Johnny gets the silver with 19. And I get the third place cup with a paltry 11. Double digits, though, so I'm very happy about that.
There you go.
I think John and I both beat what's his name?
Mel Kiper? 100%.
Mel Kiper.
We 100% did. 100%.
So if ESPN, if you want us to do this, just let us know.
I think they could put our picks up, certainly, along with everyone else, or along with Mel's. Actually, when I saw a guy on a reel today, he was like, if Kiper had showed up on the scene like 4 or 5 years ago, he never would have made it.
Already.
It's just that he's been around for so long and, was the first guy to do it. Anyway, so we had some other categories. Close but no cigar. Tyler Warren and Jalen Walker, who went 14 and 16 respectively. I had Warren at 7. John, you had him at 10. And I had Walker at 10. So not quite. And then we had way off. You guys had Pierce going number 8. And he ended up being 26th. You can see by the look on his face, he's not happy about that. And then we have our first round all-name team. Jackson Dart, I know you don't love him, Harry, but he's got a good name, especially for a quarterback going to the Giants at 25.
It's the most annoying fucking Gen Z.
Yeah, he's going to be the quarterback. He's the guy. He's your quarterback, unless he fails.
No longer.
Amika Egbuka, number 19, going to the Bucks. And I'm going to say, I'm not sure how to pronounce this gentleman's name, but I'm going to say it's Jihad Campbell.
Jihad, yeah.
Number 31 going to Philadelphia. So that's your first round all-name team. And then we have one final category, which we had a little sneak peek of, and that is coming in for a landing. And there you see the Cleveland Browns draft, and this was their entire draft. Shedeur Sanders was the last guy they took. So Graham, Schlesinger, Quinshon Judkins, honorable mention for the second round all-name team, certainly. Probably honorable mention for the first round, but he didn't go in the first round. And then Fannin, Dylan Gabriel, Dylan Sampson. I like the dual Dylans, different spelling, so you can tell them apart. And then number 144, who was either 142 picks after you thought Cleveland might take him, or maybe 139 picks after you thought Jacksonville might take him, or rather reverse since they traded picks. Shedeur Sanders, the last
135 picks after I thought the Saints would take him. But
yeah, there you go. So he could be in the way off, but there you can see he's floating into Cleveland and getting ready to, I don't know, like you said, probably be put on the practice squad. So those were our top 10 and how we fared. Congratulations, Harry. You get a nice picture of a trophy there, and I don't know, maybe a gift certificate.
That'd be great.
What's a good coffee place near you?
Oh, Kaladi Coffee.
There you go. All right, Kaladi, where you met the former governor.
That's right.
All right, so maybe we'll hook Harry up with a little Kaladi coffee because of his slim.
Or you could just send me.
Was I at Kaladi? I've had Kaladi coffee, right?
I have no idea.
Well, we went there a couple times while you were out there. Yeah,
I think I went there and brought you coffee back.
That might have been it. Yeah, that's true.
So there you go. So those were our first 10 picks.
All right, there's the draft. So exciting.
There you go. All right, so
I'll say this: I'm happy with Armand Membu. I don't remember who else the Jets drafted, but I don't remember being outraged by anything that they did at the time. So fine. Justin Fields is our quarterback, and you brought in somebody to protect him, and I'm fine with that. You guys being Giants fans, I know, with the exception of Harry and the Jackson Dart thing.
I am thrilled. I am thrilled. This is one of the best drafts the Giants have ever had.
Harry, you got to be half thrilled because of Carter, right?
Here's my take on the Giants. I hear how great they're going to be on defense because of their front line and Thibodeau and all that. Look, Carter was an obvious pick. Most people agree he's going to be great. I heard the same thing about Thibodeau. I'm not as blown away by Thibodeau. I think Carter should be twice the player that
right.
Thibodeau
and Thibodeau's improving.
He's improving. The problem I have with the Giant,
Dexter Lawrence is the best damn defensive lineman in the entire NFL.
It is for now, but you have to get it all to kind of gel together. And the problem I've had with the Giants defense is that they seem to not be able to hold on to really good secondary players. They don't want to pay them.
Yeah,
so
they have a few good ones now. So
they do. We'll see. We'll see what happens. They won 4 games last year. 4 games.
Yeah, but their defense, their
4
secondary is very different looking right now. So.
Yeah, they won 4 games.
Well, you got to remember what
we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
There were a lot of reasons why they won 4 games.
I think if Dart sits a year or two and they get, from Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the Jesus brothers, if they get a couple games out of them, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Dart playing this year unless some serious injuries happen or if
Dart's not playing. Dart will not play. I mean, he may go in garbage time in a couple of games towards the end of the season, but you're not going to see Dart play or especially start at all this year because they don't. And it's not like, it's not like they're going to have him second string behind it because, I mean, they still have Tommy DeVito if need be, right? But the fact that they have Russell Wilson and they have Jameis Winston, Dart's not seeing the field this year. He's not. He's going to get all the reps in the practice squad.
We shall see.
He may not even be on the opening day roster. He may be on the practice squad.
That would surprise me.
Well, it depends. It depends. They may do it ceremonially, but they certainly. Let's put it this way. My point is certainly in the beginning of the season, right. If for some reason, and I'm being hypothetical here, and God forbid, but hypothetically, in one game. Wilson goes down and Winston goes down. They don't want to throw Dart to the wolves. It's Tommy DeVito they're going to need. They're going to put him in. So, that being the case. So
right, but how long does that hold?
They're not carrying 4 quarterbacks on the active roster.
But my point is, once they get to game 8, does that strategy change?
That's a different story. Maybe at that point that Dart can be ready to be a third stringer at that point.
He's a bit of a project though, right? Like no one is. I don't think really anyone is thinking Jackson Dart is. NFL
he's not
ready in 8 games.
No, not at all. But he's going to benefit from sitting the whole year. Right. But later in the season, not week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not happening.
Right.
And unless Wilson, Winston, and DeVito are all out. Which, God forbid that happening, then everybody's out, including the GM and the head coach by the end of the year.
So, do you leave him on the practice squad until all 3 of those guys get hurt, then you bring him up?
I leave him on the practice squad until they need to not have him on the practice squad. That's what I do. If he needs to sit a year, he can be on the bench, not dressed for the game. I mean, not bench. He can be on the field, just not dressed for the game, right? So
he's going to be naked.
That's hot. You never know. Well, it does get hot in MetLife towards the beginning of September, so it's still summer. But my point being is, if your 1, 2, and 3 is Wilson, Winston, and DeVito, they don't need Jackson Dart to be on the team, especially if he's definitely sitting the year. So why put him as number 3
but
when you're not going to play him?
Can you say this is our second first round pick? He's at number 25 in the draft, and we're just not going to have him dressed?
Why not?
Can you do that?
I do whatever you want. Can do it. Why can't you do that? Is there a stipulation in assigning a first round player that says he has to be on the starting roster?
Well, I mean, they drafted him to be their future quarterback. Don't you want him?
Future quarterback.
Somebody's dog is very.
It's my neighbor's German Shepherd, and if
my
neighbor
very much a Jackson Dart fan.
If my neighbor doesn't pay attention to his German Shepherd, I'm going to have a serious conversation with him because it's every.
Make sure you speak German.
I'm going to try.
But my point is, can he learn and function if he's not in uniform? I mean, he's going to be holding a clipboard. But
he'll be on the practice squad.
On the practice, well, he's going to learn on the practice squad. He doesn't need to learn on the field.
Here's another. You're going to put a guy in who's going to play next year or maybe the year after, and that's if Winston is your guy after this season, right? He's on the 2-year deal. Wilson's gone after the end of this year, and you're going to tell me you're not going to have him on the sidelines for that first year?
I think he could beat out.
He could be on the sideline.
I think he could beat out DeVito.
Maybe.
Here's the other thing that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about. I'm not sure Winston or Wilson they're not open to trade with either of them, depending on how things go. I think Dable has them because he's going to have them compete. Obviously, Winston and Wilson. I think it's Russell Wilson's job. If you just look at everything, sort of,
it's his to lose.
It's his to lose.
It's a competition, but not really a competition,
right? And I think you've got two bottom of the pack veteran quarterbacks. One that's obviously had way more success. But, he wasn't good enough to stick around Pittsburgh. Jameis Winston really wasn't good enough to stick around some places. So if Jackson Dart starts to show some life, and he'll play in the preseason, obviously, their tune might change. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be so many variables with the Giants this year. If they get off to a good start, which, look, I hope they do. I hope that somebody has success, and I think that they're going to be gearing their offense though towards something that they don't have. They're going to have to improve their running game to kind of take the pressure off of the quarterbacks, and I think you're going to see a very different passing game out of the Giants. I think you're going to see a lot of short yardage, short, quick out routes with the athleticism they have at the wide receiver position.
Right. No, I definitely.
And I think that puts both Winston and Wilson and whoever else in a better situation to succeed. But I do think the Giants' running game has to, improve.
Well, let's talk about the running game for a second, okay? Yeah. Because in the was it the fourth or the fifth round?
Yeah,
fourth round. They picked up Cam Scatterbo.
Which is the best name for. I mean, especially if he catches screen passes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the only thing that would have made that better is if they did. The only thing would have made that better is if they did pick Cam Ward, because then it would have Cam to Cam, the Cams.
Yeah.
But
it's a different meaning these days.
I know. But in any event,
Pete knows all about it.
Dual cam, dual cams.
Well, he knows about that too. Pete's running a dual cam these days, just so you can get to different angles.
And he does he flip between the two?
Well, you have to subscribe to find out.
There you go, to find out. But in any event, I mean the Giants. Let's we'll wrap up the Giants talk after that. Yeah. But I mean between Abdul Carter, then at 25, obviously Jackson Dart. In the second round they picked up where the hell was it? They didn't have a pick in the second round because they traded it. In the third round, they picked up Darius Alexander, which is that was a fantastic pickup from Toledo, the defensive tackle. He'll play. He'll play too. And what they have now, here's the thing, and I said this the other day. What they have now is depth, right? They have a lot of depth, which they had to a point, but they really have a lot of depth now on the defense, and that's fantastic.
Overall, a good grade on paper. I think the draft, as far as the overall NFL, not to focus too much on Giants, I think it went. There wasn't too many surprises other than the elephant in the room, which is, Sanders dropping down to round 5, which it tells me that he must really, really be a grade A fucking asshole in person.
I heard, the talk of what he said. And I mean, he failed interviews, not just the Giants, everywhere. He failed miserably. Right. The sense of entitlement, he didn't prepare for any interview. All right. He walked in completely unprepared for the interview. And resting on daddy's laurels for more so than his own.
Well, daddy was an asshole too, but he was a good player.
Well, that's the difference. Dion had talent to back up the assholeness, right?
Well, but Dion's the most well-known college coach in football right now. He's not that successful.
Right. So
Shador was way more successful on the field than Dion was as a coach.
Well, I'm talking about when Dion was a player.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah. But in any event, and hey, you know what? I hope the kid does great. I really do. I hope that he comes up through Cleveland. He changes the culture there. It's amazing. Kudos to, seriously, honestly, at the end of the day, I hope he does well. But his attitude, and his interviewing and his sense of entitlement and everything else just obviously completely pissed off almost everybody that he interviewed with. So
I will say this, just watching college football, it was, obviously it was not a stellar year for quarterbacks.
No.
I will say this though, out of the quarterbacks that people had question marks with, I think Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, if and I don't know any of either of them personally or what their personalities are like, but if you
went
look
to
at
dinner with
them,
Dylan Gabriel the other day.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're ready to play. They have now their arm isn't going to blow you away. They're not going to be able to zing it down the field 95 yards, but they're ready to play in an NFL system, and I think be decent contributors. Maybe not this year, but in the normal progression of a rookie quarterback. I was surprised how low both of them went. Obviously, I think there's something else with Shedeur there obviously, because for a college quarterback who threw over 4,000 yards with however many touchdowns, for him to go that low, there's something there. There's something there. Who knows what it is?
Right.
None of us will really know exactly what it is.
Now, I've heard two things, and we'll start with the lesser one, right? I've heard that every NFL team colluded against the Sanders with the apostrophe after the second S.
That seems a little extreme, but yeah.
Seems a bit extreme, but I've heard that rhetoric, right? But the thing that really gets me is there's been a lot of people all over the chat rooms and blogs and everything else, and all of the groups on Facebook and so forth and so on, that are playing the race card. How are you playing the race card? I'm pretty sure Cam Ward went first. I'm fairly certain he's the same race.
Well,
last I checked.
Well, the race card, the thing I saw was the comparison to the Mannings. And they were like, well, the Mannings did this, and I'm not going to play there, and they were accommodated. And with the Sanders Dion was, look, Dion came out and said there's a couple teams I won't let him go to. And So that might have been what they were saying by the race card, because they were
the ones I was referring to. I know what you're saying, but the ones I were referring to just said nobody drafted him because he's black. They didn't mention in the posts that I'm referring to are the ones that said
you can't listen to those motherfuckers.
Well, I don't think that was the look. I'm not going to say I'm sure, but I'm sure that was part of it for some of the owners. Because we have racist old white men who own NFL football teams.
I'm not going to say it wasn't part of it, but we've drafted a lot of African American quarterbacks.
Right. I think it was, but I don't think it was the main thing. I think it was the attitude. I think it was more Dion, or as much Dion as Shedeur.
I don't think so.
I think it was just
but everything was, I had a problem with whoever the first guy, the first anonymous source that came out. I think whoever it was should put their name on it. But then all of the sources started coming out. Now, that's where you might say, well, these all owners and GMs, they're all going to kind of say the same thing to cover their asses because they did collude. I don't think it was collusion. That's one of the arguments. They go, well, we're going to teach him a lesson. Look, he did poorly in interviews. He obviously has tons of confidence. I think
if somebody's ready to win, to contribute to your team winning, then you're going to get drafted. I don't care what.
Right, and I also think, what does it say about an organization that won't take him because they don't like his attitude? You fix his attitude.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I think actually happened. I think the Giants were actually very high on him until Dable had the interview, and he came in very unprepared. And I think it was the unpreparedness and his inability to really answer the questions that Dable was asking. Now, I'm guessing that other teams like New Orleans, like the Raiders, an organization like the Raiders would have jumped at the flash of a Shedeur Sanders if he could back it up with the performance. Look, I am, and you know this, I was a vocal supporter of him. I still am. I was shocked at what happened. I don't think any collusion or racism would contribute to him going in the 5th round. I think that's on him.
Yeah, I don't think it was collusion.
Is there certain organizations that have had a history? Look, the Giants have not been a historically prominent African-American quarterback team.
Well, they got 2, right?
Well, they do now, but they didn't draft
right now. Yeah, before this it was 0.
Yeah,
They have two. They've had others though. I mean,
they've had others.
they had Tyrod Taylor. They had Josh Johnson. They had
Yeah.
they've
Right,
had
but
others.
but they didn't draft anybody.
Geno Smith.
They didn't draft anybody.
They didn't draft them, right? They didn't
And look,
draft
I don't really think it was league-wide collusion. And as
No.
far as the racism, I think it was part of it, but I think it was sort of like the last box that was checked. He's arrogant, he's unprepared, he's not interviewing well, he's overly confident, and there are some now that are obviously criticizing his game as well. Although, Harry, you talked about his stats in the last show, and I don't see how you can. But they're saying,
I mean, you watch him play. He's incredibly accurate.
Right, but he's got
he has
this.
a horrible. They say he took too many sacks. Well, he had a horrible offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. His numbers are phenomenal, but I'm
So
just saying,
if
you have
there's
all of
anybody
these
ready for the play for the Giants, it's somebody who could throw for 4,000 yards and
right.
the 30 touchdowns with a shitty offensive line.
I'm in agreement. I'm just saying there's all these little things that are coming out, and then maybe at the bottom of that list for some owners who don't like black people, it's he's also black.
I hope.
I don't think it was.
I hope
don't
that's
think,
not the case.
I
really
don't
do.
think it was high on the list, but I think it was sort of like an icing off the cake.
To your
With some of
point,
these
though,
owners.
Pete. To your point, though, Pete, you said you don't like his attitude. Fix it. But here's where that probably went out the window. If it was just his attitude, you can fix it. With Daddy in his ear, it's going to be really fucking hard to fix that attitude.
That's why I said I think it was maybe as much or almost as much Dion, because he's controlled everything about this kid's life up to this point. And why would you think that is going to change? And so
let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this, okay? Because Travis Hunter is almost a brother and a son to Dion and a brother to Shedeur. And Travis Hunter's an obvious, incredible talent and very unique. Okay. So the feedback on him has been almost the complete opposite of Shedeur Sanders, which is why I think he went as high as he did. Because prior to the tryouts and the interview process, people were we knew he'd probably be top 10, but there were people who were saying maybe he dropped, maybe he's not going to be, maybe he's not an elite cornerback or wide receiver. Maybe he's a good versatile. So obviously, when they saw him, they realized there's something really, really good about this kid. And by the way, he must have, passed these interviews with flying colors. It's interesting to me because they come from the same cloth in a lot of ways. Yeah. Now, maybe also that hurt Shedeur in that they feel like his numbers were elevated because he had the most elite, most talented wide receiver in college football on his team.
Well, that certainly helps if you're a QB. But I'll say this: I saw because you're right. There were some people who said about Travis Hunter. Yes, he's not a top level receiver and he's not a top level defender, but the fact that he can do both is going to elevate his status a little bit, right? So there are those people who said that, and I saw a clip today. I thought it was Hunter. I don't remember. He was whoever it was. I think it was him. In an interview with the Giants, and he takes a notebook out of his backpack. He says, I don't know if you want to see my notebook. He goes, this is where I write down all the things we did well, the mistakes that I made, the changes we made. Like he keeps his own track of all the plays and all the games and all the things, that went wrong, went right. Yeah. So if that was him, I think it was him. That's the sort of thing that gets you, helps get you drafted number 2, as opposed to Sanders, who apparently came in and couldn't diagram what, or whatever they called it, an install or something. How do you, it's hard think, it's hard to say so much talent that maybe the attitude, again, I say you try and fix the attitude, but if you don't think the work ethic is there, or you don't think the focus is there, there could just be too many. Just be too. Yeah, I think so too. there could just be too many things that you go,
Imagine this though. Imagine imagine Deion Sanders preparing a elite defensive back to be ready for the NFL and not being able to prepare an elite quarterback for the NFL because he's never played that position.
Well, and look, maybe Deion just overestimated the allure and the cachet that being Deion's son would carry.
Well, I think there is something to how he performed in trying to elevate his knowledge of the game when put on the spot in these interviews. In other words, is he ready to really delve into the complexities of the X's and O's that are required for a quarterback? And I think it was more of him being unprepared for that than a lack of wanting to be prepared for that. You know what I mean? I don't think it was, I'm sure there was some attitude involved with that, but I think that maybe the offensive, the level of the offense that he was running was not as high up there and as comparable to a pro game as some of these organizations would think, which conversely tells me that if that's the case, then he's got maybe more talent than we thought he did, because I'll tell you what, the eye test doesn't lie. The kid's a good quarterback. Yeah.
And look, Colorado, as was Jackson State, I think, right? Missouri was first. Or Deion was first. But Colorado in particular, I mean, they were terrible.
They were not great, and they're
not great. Better. They were terrible for a long time, and it was
absolutely,
they had a little flair early on year one, right, of Deion, and
they had a better second year,
but they had a better second year, so they did
not do well against elite competition.
No, but I still think they were a game or two. Did they almost get to the conference championship game? No,
they were on par early on, but
there was
about it. They were winning early on, and then they kind of
kind of dipped down, but not quite like the first year where I think they won their first 3 games and then they went 4-11 or whatever it is. Right. So there was improvement there. I hope the kid does well. I hope somebody gives him a chance. He certainly should be motivated now.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly should be motivated to stick it up right up everybody's.
Hey, and you know what? Have at it. But it wasn't that, and that's what's going to happen. Have at it.
Colorado didn't lose due to a lack of being able to put points on the board.
No, they didn't have a very good defense,
which is shocking because look who their head coach was. So.
Well, but they were also turning over massive amounts of players, and I don't care who you are. That's hard to make that work.
Their portal was opened wide.
Oh yeah, that thing was like a.
But look, Deion just signed an extension. He's going to be here. I think he realizes that this is where he wants to be, and we'll see what happens now that he has. Maybe things will get better because he's not dragging along this sort of familial connections that he has both with his son and Travis. So we'll see.
There you go. All right. Well, I think overall it was a decent draft. Certainly, we get back to the Giants. I think, honestly, my rating, I think the only team that had a better draft and incrementally, in my opinion, better draft was the Patriots. At certainly just as good, you can say. But the Giants were right up there. They had a fantastic draft, and a lot of teams did. I mean, there were some interesting picks by a lot of teams, but the draft overall, I think was pretty. I think it was pretty like Harry said before. There weren't a lot of surprises along the way. I think most everybody drafted best available and then need, and everybody's need everything kind of filtered right, kind of where it should have been. There were a couple of surprises, like with the Giants. I didn't think Darius Alexander was going to be there in the third round for them. I didn't think Cam Scatterbo was going to be there in the fourth round. I'm so happy they got both of those guys, and they got an offensive tackle in the fifth round. I think they had a great draft, and I think a lot of teams had a decent draft too. You know what? Hey, you know what? Moving up to second, flipping with Cleveland, the Jags to get Travis Hunter, have at it. I mean, they gave away a little bit of a haul to do that, but that's who they wanted. And one other thing, not to belabor any talking about the Giants, but I heard a lot of people say, hey, if they really wanted Jackson Dart, why the hell did they make that trade and take him at 25? He would have been there at 34. He would not have been there at 34. The Rams were going to take him. That's why the Rams traded their pick after Jackson Dart was off the board. The Rams were going to take Jackson Dart. So the Giants did a
you got to trust that they did what they needed to do.
They did what they needed to do to get their player that they wanted. Plus, there's a couple of things here. One, they didn't give up a whole hell of a lot. They had 2 third-round picks this year. They gave up one of them, and the latter one, the earlier one, they kept. They gave up their second round, but essentially the pick 25 was their second-round pick, if you will, right? And they gave up a third round next year. That's nothing. Other teams gave up a lot more to move up. That's nothing. And furthermore, now they have a 5th year of control over him by drafting him in the first round. If they waited till pick 34, it's a 4-year contract. That's it. They have a 5th year of control that they can add on if they so choose to. I'm sure they will.
If they choose to Daniel Jones him.
Well, look, the Giants historically have not been a team that goes high on quarterbacks. I mean, Sims was what, 7th or 8th overall?
7th.
Okay. Then you have Eli, obviously. And then you have Jones. I mean, other than that, correct me if I'm wrong here, they haven't really been let's pick a quarterback, in a top 10 pick.
No, I think whatchamacallit, Hostetler was the second round, right? If I recall,
second or third, yeah,
second or third even. Whatchamacallit, who else did they pick? Dave Brown was in a supplemental draft.
Yeah.
Kent Graham was later than that. Danny Cannell was later.
Yeah. None of those were really impactful.
And everybody else was a trade. Literally everybody else was a trade.
So any
other quarter other than like Ryan Asib or people you knew were going to be backup quarterbacks that were just taken. But and those of course were 3rd or 4th or 5th round.
But look, they've had big name trades before.
Sure.
And we've had marginal success with that.
Mm-hmm.
But look, the Giants' 2 most successful periods were backed by, let's face it, pretty dominant defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And a quarterback that they invested in. Now, Sims had an up and down career with the Giants. I would argue Eli did as well. It was longer, and he had more Super Bowl wins by 1, But he also had, he was around longer and had the same sort of up and down, trajectory. So, if they can, we'll see where Jackson Dart falls into it.
Well, hey, you know what? They've drafted 2 other Ole Miss quarterbacks high. All right. One of them obviously was Eli, and he won 2 Super Bowls. And the other one was Charlie Connerly, and he won an NFL championship in the 50s. So,
well, okay, let's go way back.
I'm just saying he came from Ole Miss. So
yeah,
there's a history of
winning. Scooter Norlander was
Norlander was a dietitian. I thought
he was found. He was found at a bar in
Lyndhurst
in Hackensack. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, I mean, enough on that. I mean, I think overall it
was a good draft day. We're gonna see a lot of movement now, and I want to throw this out there. Your opinion, based on what the Steelers did in the draft, is it a foregone conclusion that they're going to sign at some point, try and get Rodgers to just get in there? I mean, they have to, right? They have.
I think they've already got an agreement with them.
They probably do.
Mike, here's my take on that. I think, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank now on his name. The coach of the Steelers,
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Tomlin. I think Tomlin's on the hot seat.
You say that somebody says that every year.
Hold on.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
We went the Kenny Pickett route. We went let's get the new Giants route. The Steelers have done that previously with 2 mediocre quarterbacks that fight it out with each other. Let's hope Justin Fields makes Pete happy in the long run.
Look,
is there anything that will make me happy in the long run?
I don't think
Pennington coming back to play.
If anything goes well, I lose my identity. So
I think the Steelers are misguided if they think that bringing Aaron Rodgers in moves the needle with where they're at.
I think they just need to get through this year.
Aaron Rodgers has had 1 300-yard passing game. in the last 4 years.
Yeah, but he threw for 4,000 yards with the Jets last year. So, I mean, if he didn't have 300-yard passing games, he had 280s and 290s. So,
Okay.
he had to have. To have 4,000 yards passing, 4,000 plus yards passing last year, he had to have, he didn't have, he didn't get that from one 300-yard game and all 100-yard games. He was obviously in the high twos most of the other games to get there. So,
did you watch any Jets game with Rodgers in it and go, yeah, he's the difference maker?
No. I mean, he had some decent plays, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers
right.
of old through most of the games.
I agree, and I wanted him to be. I was hot on it. I thought it was fun, but I don't see it, and I can't see another year of him, meandering in the. I don't know. With Pat McAfee through the mushroom garden.
I don't see him bringing enough to the table to make whoever has him, unless he goes to the Chiefs and Mahomes gets hurt. I don't see how he's the difference maker for anybody in this league. I mean, he will make a difference, but he won't be the guy that's leading them anywhere close to the promised land.
But I think you're right, John. I think that's where he's going.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean it has to be there, and it has a lot to do with Tomlin knows him, right? And he's covering his ass. He wants to stay there. I mean, the Jets. This is the 57th season for the Jets. The 57th season for the Steelers, where they've had 3 head coaches. Chuck Noll was 69 to 91, 92 to 07 or 06 or 07. Was Bill Cowher, and 07 or 08 till through now is Tomlin. So, Bill Cowher is the shortest tenured of all of them. Tomlin's only a year or two away from Noel's tenure.
Look, we all know Tomlin's a good coach.
Right.
Okay. Tomlin's had early success when he had, let's face it, a franchise quarterback in Big Ben and a really good defense. Some of the best defensive players in the last 20 years have been on those Steelers teams. Mm-hmm. He's been good, but not really all that successful in the postseason. He's been the Aaron Boone of Boone at least made it to a World Series final. He's been the Aaron Boone of football for a very long time with probably not as good of a team on paper. Mm-hmm. So, personally, I don't think Tomlin should be. I don't think there's a better quarterback or a better coach in the league than Tomlin.
This is Tomlin's 19th season coming.
But I think he's got to get to the championship game or something to because they're a good team that sneaks into the playoffs and doesn't really do much.
Yeah. Yeah, when it becomes just an ongoing. There's only so long anybody can hang on.
Right.
No.
So we'll see. Anyway, there you go.
All right. Good stuff for the draft.
Sounds good.
Where do we want to go next? A little NBA?
A couple of notes on baseball, and then we'll close. Then we'll do NBA to wrap.
Oh, actually, you know what? I just wanted to say one quick thing about the Jets. Saw the report today that Jordan Travis is retiring. He says he just can't. The guy from FSU, he just cannot rehab enough to be able to play. So, I was hopeful that he was going to return to action when the Jets drafted him because he was a pretty damn good college quarterback before he got hurt. But he says he just can't. I guess after consulting with the doctors after everything they've gone through, they're either advising against him trying to play or just saying it's a big risk, so give it a shot if you want to. But so he's decided to retire. I wish him well. Would have liked to see him play. I commend the Jets for taking a chance on him and giving him time to rehab, but unfortunately, I guess he's just not going to be good enough to play. So, just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no, I heard that broke this afternoon. So, it's a shame, but you know what? Kudos, making a decision like that's obviously ridiculously hard.
I'm sure it's got to be very, very difficult, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I personally know somebody that made AA in baseball and blew out his UCL and decided to call it a career.
Yeah,
So,
it's hard to come back. Well, look, now he can get traded. The Shedeur Sanders can get traded to the Jets.
there you go.
We got an open spot.
Exactly.
You know, push Justin Fields a little bit.
I think Jet Pennington's coming out of retirement just for you, Pete.
Well, one game is all I ask for, Chad.
That's it. Just one more. One more game. One more. There you go.
All right. So let's do a little baseball.
Little Diamond. I just want Harry's opinion. Kind of covered that up. I just need Harry's opinion on the team that got to 20 wins first. I'm just curious in how you feel about them. And I'm not blowing smoke or busting your ass or anything. I'm just curious
about your Mets, you mean?
I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Not in a derogatory way, like I don't. That's not me.
I think they're scoring a lot of runs. I think Pete Alonso is having a career year.
What did Brendan Nimmo the other night have 9 RBIs?
9 RBIs and a grand slam.
Nobody's talking about their bats.
And the bats are amazing. I'm going to knock on wood when I say it. I'm also going to knock on wood and say lowest ERA for starting rotation in baseball as well. So hey, so far they're yeah. I mean, Mets are off to a good start. And here's why my fingers, toes, and legs, and hands, and eyes, and everything else are crossed, because before this has happened, not often, but many times, that April's been amazing for the Mets. No pun intended. All right, and then we get to May. So tomorrow's May. Let's see what happens. You know?
Well, what would you rather have? Lousy April, good May, or a head start through the first month on the rest of the season?
I would rather have the head start, right?
Well,
because here's the thing. They had a lousy April and May last year and made it to the NLCS, right? Had they had a better April and even just incrementally better April and incrementally better May, they may have been in the driver's seat in the National League. You know, but I mean, would that have gotten them further? Maybe. I mean, there were 2 games from the World Series. So
I mean, they've got the best record in baseball right now, and they're really, really good at home. But you know, you're asking me facetiously what I think. You know what I said? I said the Mets have a way better lineup than the Yankees.
I wasn't comparing them, and I wasn't busting chops.
Either. No, and I think that they're performing a lot more consistently. You know, if Soto picks his game up a little bit, then they're going to be dangerous. But look, Soto's more exposed now. He doesn't have arguably the best player in baseball, at least this year, you know, protecting him.
But here's how I look at it. On that note, not to cut you off, but on that note, here's how I look at it. I don't necessarily, and I'm not saying you're wrong to any degree, but I don't necessarily look at it as Soto's getting exposed. I look at it as they can't do what they still can't do what they did. You know, they can't pitch around him, right? And because he's quote unquote, as you said, getting exposed, they are maybe pitching around him, and everybody else is picking up the slack, and that's why the bats are around him. Alonso, Vientos, Nimmo, everybody around him. So just for the sheer fact that he's in the lineup, and I mean, everybody's saying he's having a down year. He's still hitting over 250. He's still got over 400 OBS,
which you know by today's standards is okay. Yeah, I mean he's a career 270 hitter. So you know he had he had 280 something last year. He was over 300 for a lot of the year. It's, you know, if you have him around and he does what he does in the postseason, then that's great. Nimmo's doing great. Look, Pete Alonso, if he keeps this up, is gonna, you know, have a career year, and you might not be able to keep him.
No, there'll be a lynch mob outside Citi Field.
I think
if anybody can keep him, it's Steve Cohen. So
the fact that they waited so long.
Yeah.
You know, I told you my thoughts on Alonso, and Goldschmidt's having a good year. He's hitting for a really high average. But I didn't know what the hesitation was on Alonso. I mean, he's a top 5, top 6 first baseman, probably top 3 this year as far as first basemen go, especially with Freddie Freeman being injured.
Give him what he wants. Keep him a lifelong Met. Call it a day. Number 20, you know, if they do that, obviously at some point we'll be retiring 20.
I mean, I think
like this year we're retiring this number in July, right there. All right, finally, there you go. So, and I want to go to the game, but the cheapest ticket right now is $300. So I don't know if I'm going or not. So, yeah. But
well,
I mean, the Mets.
I'll say this about the Mets. Soto, whatever. He's almost 250 now. You got Lindor and you got Alonso and you got Soto. So if two of those three guys are hitting, you're going to be okay. Right. And other than that, you don't have much. McNeil is,
but
obviously hasn't played very many games. So Marte is struggling, trying to get back now after missing some time. Nimmo is Nimmo, but he's barely crossed the Mendoza line here at this point. So you need two out of those three guys, and we'll see what positions they go in the order and if they get moved around a little bit. Right. But look, Alonso's not going to hit over 300 this season. He's just not. The power numbers will be there. But that
he will by the end of the season. He will be the Met with the most home runs.
Yeah, but that
he'll pass Darryl Strawberry, but before the end of the season.
Yeah, so. But as far as the average,
he's only like 18 runs, 18 away from.
That'll catch up to him. So hopefully, Soto again, he's not a super high average hitter, but if he can get up to 270 from 243, that'll be a good sign. And Lindor, after what he did last year, just keep chugging the way he did last year.
I would argue that Lindor's having a way better year this year than he did last year. I mean, obviously, you have to compare the beginning of the year last year with Lindor to the end of the year, and he's starting the way But I mean,
and finish,
he's hitting 300, which is what you expected out of Francisco Lindor. And I'm sorry for that. Right. For that type of player, I want for what you paid him. I want him to hit 285 to 310. He has to. For him to be the impact player that he is. I think Nimmo's numbers will come up. Obviously, Vantos's numbers are down, but as a team, they're hitting for a good average. And right now they are relying on two or three guys to be the run producers, both from an RBI and a run scored position. I mean, look, Alonso's, I think, leading the team in runs scored. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Well, and you have Alvarez. What's he going to do over the course of the season if he stays healthy? Yeah. He's projected to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, Torrance has been playing well too, so you can't move him down. I mean, he's been, he's definitely you got to keep him around. And Tyrone Taylor, I don't know if you saw that play last night in the field, where he laid out and caught that.
Oh yeah.
That was fantastic. And that inning was ridiculous.
Look, they're winning the games that they should win. Now they've played Miami twice already. They played the Athletics. They played but they've beaten Philadelphia. They've played the Nationals, who are not atrocious.
They split with they split with the Nationals this past weekend. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't mean to nitpick and get all specific into games and everything else, but Friday's game, they came back from 3 runs down. They came back from 3 runs down, and they scored in the top of the 8th. They scored 4 runs, and they went up 4-3. All right, and Garrett comes in the bottom of the 8th, and threw 9 pitches and shut down 3 batters. Bing bang boom. Right, and the Mets didn't do anything in the 9th.
Their pitching has been great.
Right, but here's my thing. Then Mendoza takes Garrett out and puts in Stanek. He threw 9 fucking pitches. Why can't he go back out and finish the game? And then Stanek comes in and blows the save, and they lose the game 5-4. Why couldn't Garrett go back out? Why?
Well, what are the?
I'm tired of the attitude of. Yeah, but I'm tired of the. Fuck the numbers. I'm tired of the attitude. Well, we got to save his arm because we may need him tomorrow. Win the fucking game tonight, and then we'll worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of baseball globally, I mean, obviously the Mets and the Dodgers are probably not as good as I thought they were going to be, even though they're at a 675 winning percentage. Mm-hmm. The Mets are, you can't expect them to keep up a 700 winning percentage. But look, here's the thing that the Mets have in their advantage right now. I'm not sure the Braves although they're 7-3 in their last 10, I'm not sure they're the team we thought they were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The Marlins are pretty bad. The Nationals are pretty bad. That bodes well. And Philly is probably not as good as, at least right now, as what they're projected to be.
Right.
But the Mets keep winning series. They swept a couple series. That's all you can ask for. And their run differential is plus 55, which is the best in the league. So they're doing something right. We'll see how it goes. We got a long season, but they're off to a good start, which has not been the case over the last couple of years.
Has not. Definitely has not. So knock on wood, it continues. And if they do come back down to earth, it's not a free fall. It's just a level out.
I mean, I think looking at the National League, with the exception of the Colorado Rockies, the NL West is kind of what we thought it was. There's some good teams in there, and unfortunately, they got to play each other a lot. So that could also help the Mets as far as seeding goes. Towards and I think that's the same reason why the Cubs. You're seeing the Cardinals, the Pirates, the Brewers really not being as good as they have been in years past, and we're seeing the Cubs and Reds, my Reds team that I picked, I think, to win that division, playing pretty good ball. So there's not too many big surprises, and I think at the end of it, I think Atlanta will be back in this. I think they've had a rough start, but the rest of it is sort of, I don't know, kind of how you thought it would be. As far as the Yankees go, they're exactly what I thought they'd be. They need another starter, and they're losing a lot of close games, and the bottom of their lineup sucks. Paul Goldschmidt's been a breath of fresh air. Hopefully he can keep it up. Aaron Judge is at an MVP level. If he's on pace for what he's doing, he's going to have 162 RBIs this year. I mean, it's just crazy. Fried has been fantastic. He's obviously out of the gate a Cy Young leader right now. Rodon is schizophrenic, but when he's good, he's great. The rest of their starters are pretty bad. And this Boone is doing the same thing this year as he did last year. He is abusing their very talented bullpen, which was also great in April and May last year and started to stutter towards the end of the year. So we'll see.
This is true. We'll see. All right.
But yeah, cool. The Mets are exactly where I thought they'd be. I think I had greater, confidence in the Mets than you guys did in some ways.
Well, we're Mets fans. That's why that is.
Than I did. Well, I think we all picked them to have the best record in April, right?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah. But I don't think I picked them to win the division. So.
And
John's got him winning the World Series, and I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
I think the pitching will start to be tested a little bit more in the next month.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yes, we will. All right. Pete, you have anything on baseball?
Nope.
All right.
Still early. Plenty of time.
I have one more thing to say on baseball, because I'd like to get out of the New York only mindset. Dear Colorado Rockies, sell your fucking team right now. The city deserves way fucking better than what you're providing. And I don't want to hear whining about the discrepancies and what the money that different teams have. Sell your fucking team. I'm not going to any more games.
Oakland's playing better in a minor league ballpark right now.
Right. You're atrocious. You're a disgrace.
Have you gone to a game yet? Sure.
No. Sell the team. Sell it now.
Start a petition. We'll start it here on this show. We'll put it all over Denver. We'll go from there.
There we go.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Colorado Rockies ownership. Sell the team. STT. Sell the team. STFT.
Get a little movement going here.
Exactly. Hashtag STFT.
All right.
All right.
And now that we've covered two sports that no one gives a shit about, let's talk about the sports that actually are in the midst of some really great playoffs.
Ironically, I know what you're saying, but there are a lot of people that care more about what we talked about than do basketball. Not that there's a lot of people that care about basketball too, which is why we're here, and we're going to talk it right now. So let's
let's talk some hoops.
Let's do that. So Yeah, I'm a little pissed that they lost that game last night and didn't close it out at home. And I'm talking about the Knicks over the Pistons. But they'll finish it up tomorrow night. I think I said Knicks in 6. So
The Knicks aren't getting out of the second round, so it doesn't matter.
no. They're not getting out of second round. I said that too. But they're gonna win in the first round. And I did say Knicks in 6 against the Pistons. And,
Yeah.
well, they win tomorrow night. It's Knicks in 6. So
I mean that obviously the Bucks have been stung with horrible injuries, but man, that Indiana win last night was something else.
it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And I mean-
Indiana or the Clippers would be a team like the two teams that you would want to watch out for heading into the playoffs.
Right.
Well, the other team that I knew from watching them the last number of years, look, Anthony Edwards is a different player than we've seen in a long time. And Minnesota can, I think, tonight wrap up, is it tonight? I think it is.
Tonight, yes.
They can knock out the Lakers that everybody had winning another championship. And God, do I hope they do it. The only thing that would be better is Houston coming back and beating the Warriors. But, the playoffs show who teams really are. And if Minnesota can bump off the Lakers, then they move on to the next round and they don't have to play Oklahoma City. So they get to play the winner of the Warriors-Rockets series.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Probably eventually, if they keep going, they have to play Oklahoma City.
And I'm not sure. I'm not sure they don't win that next round. So I don't know.
Well,
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that guy.
Let me ask you guys this, because we're talking about this, but have the playoffs so far overall? There have been some good games, but have they been good?
Yeah, I think so.
The Thunder swept. Minnesota might win at 4-1. Golden State's on the verge of winning at 4-1. Boston won 4-1. Indy won 4-1. Cleveland swept. I mean, these have not been...
But you expect that in the first round. But you've had a great series with the Knicks and Pistons. The Clippers, Nuggets, which of course
Nuggets is great.
Again, it's a 4-5 matchup. That's what you expect.
But those are real. I mean,
those have been great games.
The Pacers Bucks had a couple of good games, but I mean, those are really the only.
Houston and the Warriors could very easily be 2-2 right now, even though it is 3-1. It's about to be 3-2 because the Rockets are up by 17. Not that means anything in today's NBA, but
yeah. And the Rockets are. I mean, are the Rockets the most who's on this team?
Well, yeah. I mean, they've got a combination of some really good young guys and some veterans, but.
But not really anybody who's like a national household name. I mean, maybe Van Fleet,
right? Who was,
I'm not saying they're not good players, but there's no Jokic, there's no Antetokounmpo, there's no Jason Tatum.
No, but Jalen Green is a young talent who, I think people know about. They're a good team, and when they're at their best, they play really good defense, and they're very athletic. Okay, and they're deep. Okay, so but yeah, they are a young team, and when the best known players are Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, I'm not sure.
And Dylan Brooks, known for negative reasons too.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, look, Brooks and Draymond. That you would think that would. Like, why don't they just throw those guys out at halftime of every game?
Yeah, exactly.
Just go,
well, Draymond gets the benefit of the doubt a lot of times, but
yeah, that's true.
Harry, I got a question for you.
Yeah,
and this is a big hypothetical because neither of these teams are going to the championship.
Mm-hmm.
As a former gym coach of yours and I's, let's play Fantasy Island for a second here. The Nuggets make the finals. And the Knicks make the finals. So it's a New York-Denver finals.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you rooting for?
The Nuggets.
Really?
Yeah, here's why.
Tell me why.
Because there's a generational player on the Nuggets who is not ever going to get the respect he deserves unless he wins rings. We're watching the best player in basketball.
I understand what.
Yeah, and I don't have the
well,
emotional. I don't have the emotional connection to this Knicks team because there's a bunch of personalities on it that I can't stand.
I understand what you're saying, but and I get it. I do, and I understand what you're saying about Jokic too. But this is a team that you grew up.
If they play anybody else, I'm rooting for them. But the last time I had an emotional investment in the Knicks was 1999.
Yeah. Now, look, another ring.
I'm not getting excited over when Carmelo. I loved Carmelo, and I did like those Knicks teams. There's just something about, look, if they play anybody else, I'm going to root for the Knicks, and I watch them all the time. They're kind of an odd team to get your hand on, and I think Brunson is great. I think it's a hypothetical. I don't think either team's making it to the conference finals, let alone the NBA finals.
No, neither of them. Yeah, I mean the Nuggets. If assuming the Nuggets beat the Clippers, OKC's beating them in the next round.
We'll see.
Assuming the Knicks beat the Pistons, Boston's beating them in the next round. So
look, the Nuggets match up better against OKC than they do against Minnesota.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
The Nuggets match up better against the Lakers.
I will say that the Nuggets have a better shot of seeing the Western Conference Championship round than the Knicks do have seeing the Eastern Conference Championship round. But I don't think either of them are getting out of the next round.
Here's the thing with the Knicks that I will say. They get the same production out of their stars almost every night.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's enough to beat a Pistons team in the first round of the playoffs, and sometimes it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
The Nuggets, on the other hand, are they have one consistent player who's at the top of his game, and the rest of it is a crapshoot as to who is going to actually show up. Jamal Murray last night, who, by the way, was brilliant on the offensive end and an absolute joke on the defensive end of the ball. I mean, he made James Harden look like 2010 James Harden. It's just it's ridiculous. Now, having said that, he pumped in 43 points. He shot really well. Aaron Gordon is playing Aaron Gordon ball from their championship series. Michael Porter Jr. played defense on 3 plays last night and had a rebound. So, something good might happen. They have the ability to, when the matchups are right, have a wider range of people show up and I think win a game for them. Because Jokic is such a facilitator that can happen. And he's getting bombarded on the defensive side. And to that extent, Zubac is actually a tough matchup for him. He's actually a really good two-way center that's underrated in this league. And look, this Clippers team is a good team. Kawhi and Harden are playing good ball. This is a good team, okay? Norman Powell is one of the best role players in the NBA right now. So this series isn't over. The Nuggets could go into LA tomorrow and lay an egg, and we're all of a sudden we're going to game 7. So I think the Nuggets, they were a 4 seed, okay, in the West. Is OKC a better team? Yes. But I actually feel better about the Nuggets playing OKC than I do about them playing the Timberwolves.
Okay.
I don't see the Knicks beating Boston or beating Cleveland. I just don't. I can't see any situation where that happens.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about OKC is if you look at Gilgeous-Alexander's numbers, they weren't great, and they were winning anyway. Now again,
they're deep. They're a good team.
It was
not all Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They are a good team.
Well, that's my point. He was not playing well. Now again, it was against the Grizzlies, who in our seedings thing they made the switch from the 4.5 over under from the 8.5 over under, but obviously not in the same league.
And their best players out.
Yeah. So but yeah, that's. I'm thinking the Nuggets are going to get through, but you're right about the Clippers, man. Those
This ain't over.
Harden's been playing well.
This is not over. This is a good...
But, if he lays an egg, then it's obviously could be a very different story.
The other thing is that, Coach Jokic he's got this team motivated. He's been drawing up some good plays and screaming at people. That's what you need on the sidelines. Oh, there's another guy, David, Musselman. What's his last name? What's the Nuggets coach? Who was his father?
Bill Musselman?
No. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm serious in that in half the timeouts, Jokic is drawing up plays and everyone is listening to him.
Well, they should.
Yeah,
they should. Let me throw this at you real quick. I don't know how much thought you've given this, but Coach of the Year, Bernie Bickerstaff, Pistons.
Do we do one in the whole league, or do we do it by conference?
I don't know. I'm just going to go with one, just because I don't. Like, to me, that's the biggest turnaround, right, from where they were last year.
Yeah, but
where they are this year.
But
I mean, the Pacers were sort of in the mix. Are they more impressive for what they've done by getting?
I think Coach of the Year has to go to, and I think this is how you pronounce his name, Ime Udoka of the Houston Rockets. I think that I don't know what the Rockets' record was last year, but they were a 2 seed, if I'm not correct.
It was not very good last year.
And like we just said, he doesn't have a whole lot of big name stars on his team.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, but the Pistons aren't household names either.
No, but
these two teams are very similar.
Very similar. I think the fact that Udoka got a Houston Rockets team to the 2nd seed in the West is a bigger accomplishment.
Yeah, that might be. You're right. That might be a little bit. All right. I think it's just one over the course of over the whole league. But if we go by conference, then I think that's fair. But that's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more of an accomplishment than number 6 in the East for the Pistons.
He's my choice.
Although I think the Pistons were a worse team last year, but not by a hell of a lot.
They were horrible. But yeah.
Well, either way,
all right, it's 3 minutes. 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and the Rockets are up by 30.
All right, so that one is
98-68. So it looks like it's going to go to games.
Well, it is the Warriors. You don't want to call it.
That's true.
I mean,
even 30 with 3 left in the third, 3-3-3, 3-0-3-3. So anything can happen.
And on the Mets, by the way, the starting pitcher, whatchamacallit, was only at 60 pitches, and they took him out. They put Stanek in the 7th. The Mets only had 1 run, and Stanek immediately gave up 2 runs.
Yeah.
Why Stanek is still on this fucking team is beyond me.
There's
your
April 30th.
The man has blown 3 fucking saves in the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Go. Goodbye. Get out of here. I'm done. Sorry.
Make him a starter.
Yeah, that might even help you.
Yeah. All right. I got a little over-under since we've been talking about basketball. It is basketball related. It's a quick one.
Let's do it.
You want to do that?
Well, I've got no chance of losing this time.
All right, so this is a quickie. We know that the Thunder are moving on to the next round in the West. We know that the Celtics are moving on to the next round in the East, but we don't know who their opponents will be just quite yet.
Yep.
But we do know that the Cavaliers and the Pacers are set to bang heads in the conference semifinals. So we're going to do a little over-under number of games in that series. Cavs, Pacers. And we're going to put the over-under at 6.5.
So basically you're asking, are they going to go to a Game 7?
Pretty much.
I'm going
in
under.
layman's terms.
I'm going under. It's going to be 5 or 6 games. If I had to pinpoint, I'm going to say 6. I'm going to say the Pacers are going to be a little bit of a problem for the Cavs, but they'll win it 4 games to 2. It's still under either way.
Too, so we'll go
it's
6.
still under.
I'll go over only because I like this Pacers team and I like Halliburton. I think I probably tend to agree with John if I had to put money on it, but I'll go over just to make it interesting. I think it'll go Game 7.
Yeah, I hope it goes Game 7. So I'll say yeah. I think the Pacers are my team that I want to win the whole thing. If I had to choose
that's not going to happen.
No, probably not. But look.
But I'll tell you what, if they could beat Cleveland,
if they get past Cleveland, then yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna like that, and probably I guess the Timberwolves in the West, I guess, but again without an actual. Yeah.
There's nothing that the NBA would want more than an Indiana, Minnesota.
yeah, fantastic. People will be staying up late out west. All right, anything more for basketball?
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, so, let's go Knicks. Let's go Nuggets.
Go Knicks. Go Nuggets. There you go.
I've been enjoying it. I've been watching a lot of NBA and NHL playoff games. So I don't know. Maybe I just have a boring life.
Oh, I think that when does the WNBA season start? Sometime in the month.
Let's not get into that. Save that for a special.
We gotta get
special WNBA preview show.
WN.
Once we get to the NBA and the NHL playoffs. All right, so
let's wait for a lull.
As they like to say, let's do that hockey.
Yeah.
Who's got what? Anybody? I got some hockey, and are they for real? But
Avalanche are on their last leg.
Yeah, Devils
must win game tomorrow.
Devils are the worst team in the playoffs.
Devils first team out of the playoffs. But they put up a good fight last night. They did. Went to 2 overtimes, right?
Yeah, after blowing a 3-0 lead and a 4-3 lead.
I mean, conversely, compared to the NBA, we've got a series that's 2-2. We've got a series that's 3-2. We've got another series. We got
3
in the West.
3-2s.
We have 3
3-2s. 4 3-2s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the Carolina was the only clear, kind of winner, and the Capitals are on their way to knocking
Capitals.
out the
as are the Panthers. Panthers are 3-1.
Although they're only up by 1. Yeah. So
there's only one team that we know is going through so far, as opposed to the NBA where we have 4.
So we got Jets and Blues at 2-2. Who do you guys got winning that?
Jets.
I like Jets the Blues, man.
Jets are getting at least to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, that's my Jets call. Win what's the most points? Is it the Conn Smythe?
No, the President's Trophy.
President's Trophy. That's it. They win that this year?
I think you would. I think the Jets should, but I'm kind of with Pete. I think the Blues are a hot team, and the fact that this is 2-2 makes me nervous for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and St. Louis was let's see. We had
they were hot towards the end of the year.
Yeah, John and I had them winning the one of the wild card spots. We all had the Wild. You had the Flames. We had the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
You guys had
the Blues aren't a slouch, but the Blues aren't a slouch. It may go to Game 7. The Blues may win another game, but it's the Jets will win that series.
Yeah, the Avalanche got a tough pairing with Dallas, and this has been a series. Look, the Avalanche should have won that last game. It's just, I mean, the previous game they lost.
Right.
I think Dallas wins this series, unfortunately, but I think it goes 7.
Colorado will win another game. Yeah, you're right. Dallas will win. Dallas will win it. Dallas will go. It'll be Dallas and the Jets in round 2.
Here's the good news. At least one of the Florida teams is going to get knocked down.
Yeah, they have to.
So that's good news. Depending,
but we'll have Vegas in there. I mean, I'm rooting for
That's true.
for Toronto and Edmonton. I mean, wouldn't that be great to have a Maple Leafs Edmonton Oilers final? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, that's
I mean,
that's the thing. You also have
It could have a
One
what
of
about
the-
a Maple Leafs Winnipeg Jets? I mean, it's still Canada, right? So
that's true.
right, but
Yeah,
you also have
Winnipeg's
one of
still
the
Canada.
Canadian teams is definitely going to get knocked out, whether it's Toronto
Right.
or Ottawa. And look, Leafs they were up 3-1.
Montreal,
They
yeah,
lost the last one, but I mean, if you-
Montreal's not getting past the Capitals either. So
No.
no, I don't.
I'll
think
tell
so.
you what, if I had to pick a team that I just think is the team of destiny right now, I think it's the Capitals.
yeah, you think?
Yeah.
I think they're gonna. I think it's just a storyline that's writing itself.
Yeah.
I
sneaky.
personally think if Ovechkin wins a championship this
Retire.
year after breaking the goals record,
And his leg.
I think you fucking ride off on a white horse and you retire.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think so.
Maybe.
Well, so what do we think is the what is Toronto going to do?
I think Toronto wins the series.
Yeah,
They win
Toronto.
this series, and then do they fall apart and dash everybody's hopes like they so often do?
No,
At least it
no,
won't be the
they'll-
first round.
They're probably going
they-
to play Florida right next. Is that who they're?
I would
Probably.
want they'll play Florida. I would want Toronto to win, but Florida's winning that series.
So they won't get to the conference finals.
No.
Florida looks good.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know.
It's gonna be Washington. It's gonna be the Capitals and the Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final.
I think it might be the Capitals and the Maple Leafs. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping for that too, but I don't think so. I think Florida. It's Florida, right? It's the annoying Panthers. They're just
Yeah, and look, Carolina could knock off the Capitals.
yeah. I mean, they could. I don't think they're gonna, but they could. You
I think
know,
I think irregardless of what happens in the Maple Leafs Florida series, I think the Capitals are going to the NHL Finals.
Okay.
Well, if they take care of business sooner rather than later, since Carolina is resting now, I think that's key for Washington, because we talk about rust when teams are off, but I don't know if that's really the case with hockey, or if it is. Of all the sports, hockey's got to be the least, right?
Look, and I'm
Where
hoping
it
that
has the least effect.
I'm hoping that the Avs can come back against the Stars. I will tell you this. That's a tough first round matchup for both Colorado and Dallas. Those are two really good teams.
Yeah. Long series can take a lot out of you.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Okay.
here's an interesting, and it's not going to happen, but here's an interesting little thing. Let's say Minnesota makes it into the round 2, and then they make it into the Western Conference Finals, and so does Dallas. So Minnesota is playing the former Minnesota team.
Yeah. Nobody will know about that, John.
Minnesota's playing.
Well,
no, hockey fans will know that.
Our listeners will know.
Old hockey fans will know.
That's true.
Our listeners will know.
Our listeners won't know, right?
Nobody researches them. Nobody's researching. You know the
He has to research that the Stars used to be the North Stars.
I know, but what I'm saying is you have to care about history.
That's true, and that's true. Younger kids today, these younger kids today.
Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody. There was no history before they were born. So.
Yeah.
There's no history since last year.
Well, that too. So, anyway.
All right.
Anyway.
One quick note, and then we got a nice "Are They For Real?" that does involve some hockey teams and a few
Sounds like
other
a plan.
teams from sports. But quick note: Sidney Crosby, 20 straight seasons averaging a point per game, or scoring, I should say, a point per game.
Good for him.
Which passes Wayne Gretzky.
Good for him.
Is he number one on the all-time average?
He's got, I think, let me see here. 80th point of the season, about 3 or 4 days ago. 20th consecutive point per game season. First player in NHL history to do that. Gretzky had 19 straight seasons, and 9 others had 15 or more point per game seasons. Some of them were Mario Lemieux, Evgeny Malkin, at least from the Penguins. So not bad. He's also moved into the top 10 all-time assist lists this season. And 106,070th career point, which is his 24th goal of the season. Fourth place for most points scored with a single franchise, behind Gretzky with the Oilers. He trails Gordie Howe now. Crosby does.
Gordie Howe now.
Wings, Yzerman, or Yzerman should say, with the Red Wings, and Lemieux with the Penguins. So, pretty good year for Sidney Crosby, and who knows how many more he's going to play.
Right. I think he's top 10 now in career points per game. But Mr. Mike Bossy's still up there, hovering around 1.5, and the only people ahead of him are a guy named Connor McDavid, a guy named Mario Lemieux, and this guy named Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, I think I've heard.
Can you believe Gretzky averaged almost just under 2 points per game in his career?
It's ridiculous.
I mean, Lemieux is 1.883. It's just insane. Mike Bossy, 1.497 points per game, ahead of Bobby Orr, ahead of Peter. Peter Forsberg is still ahead of Sidney Crosby, and Kucherov, who's still playing, and Drysdale are right there. I mean, they don't have the seasons number like Crosby does, but it's still impressive. Right. It's still impressive.
So there's that. So congratulations, Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
And with that, we will do a little, Are They For Real?
What is real?
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Pretty sure none of that's real.
You're not real.
For real, for real, for real. Yeah.
What is real?
All right. So are they for real with respect to moving on to the next round?
All right.
So we're going to first talk about the Maple Leafs, who are up 3-2, and the Blues, who are up 2-2.
They're up 2-2?
Excuse me. Yeah, they're up 2-2, and they're also down 2-2. So who's more for real as far as moving on to the next round?
Maple Leafs.
The Leafs, because they only got to win one.
Leafs. Yeah.
I think they're a better team, too.
They are.
Yeah. All right. Next up, this one's semi-answered, perhaps. The Pistons. Well, maybe not. Pistons, who are down 2-3, or the Clippers, who are down 2-3. Who is more likely to move on to the next series?
Clippers.
All right. Now we'll turn to Major League Baseball, and we'll say who's actually better. We're going to look at a couple of ones and twos. And we're going to say who's more likely to, let's say, win the division. And I know we made our picks about this, but, we're a month into the season, and so here's a chance to change your pick if you feel the need. So ones and twos. First up, Cubs and Reds. Who's more likely to win the division?
Reds.
I'm sticking. I think the Reds are going to win that division. I really do.
All right. I'll take the Cubs. By the way, I'll take the Maple Leafs, and I agree. Clippers.
You're going to take the Maple Leafs to win the National League Central?
I think they're more likely to win their series.
Yeah.
I think they're more likely to win the NFC East.
They won't beat the Cubs.
No.
They might beat the Dolphins, though.
They might beat the Reds. They won't beat the Cubs. Next up, 1 and 2, Seattle and Houston. Who's more likely to win the division?
Houston.
Yeah, boy, is there a better team that just no one talks about them and they just continually? I still think Texas wins that division, but
I think Texas is winning that division. But between the Astros and the Mariners,
I'll pick the Astros.
Nobody talks about the Astros unless they're cheating these days. And Seattle is like it's a perennial, until they do better, it's a perennial also ran, right? Or almost. They almost got there.
Right.
But I'll take Seattle because I think I picked them to win the division. So I'm gonna stay with that. And finally, we'll stick with baseball here. Who's the most for real, or I should say least for real? Rockies or White Sox? Who's going to have the worst record in baseball when the season is over?
The Rockies.
Rockies are worse.
Only because they got to play the West.
Yep.
And the White Sox, well, listen, White Sox have 7 wins, I think. And the Rockies have 5. Yeah. But I mean,
I'm going Rockies too, yeah.
I mean, the Tigers and the Guardians and the Royals, I think the 3 of us each have one of them winning the division, right?
Yeah, but Minnesota's dropped down. There's going to be, because of that.
It's not as tough as the West.
It's not as tough. It's not the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks. It's not that.
However, I will say, because of the Dodgers, and look, the Padres are right there, even though they've dropped into second place. Who's more likely to sort of maybe drop out of it later this season and start, selling off? Is it the Giants and or the Diamondbacks?
I don't think either of them.
The White Sox or Minnesota? You know what I mean?
White Sox and Minnesota, without a doubt.
Yeah, so they might. It might be.
Nobody in all. I don't know if this could technically happen, but you could see 3 teams in the playoffs from the National League West, right? Can you or no? I guess it would only be 2. But
no, you can see 3. You can have 2 wild cards.
The 2 wild card teams come out of the West. You got 3 teams.
Yeah, there you go.
But again, if the Giants are, right now they're right in the thick of it. But if you're thinking the Dodgers and the Padres are going to be the 2 better teams that are fighting it out, if the Giants reach a point where they're like, it's not happening.
I think the Giants and the Padres are going to be fighting for that second place. I really do, and I don't think the Diamondbacks are as good as they were the last couple of years, but I also think that they're going to be challenging. I think it's going to be tight the whole way. I think the Dodgers will start to pull away a little bit, but the Giants are a surprisingly good team, and the Padres are inconsistent, even though they're 19-11.
Yeah, listen, and everybody has to chase the Dodgers. All right, so we will not keep track of that and see what happens. Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that is all for Are They For Real?
All right, well, let's wrap this damn thing up.
Yeah, I think did we cover? How many sports did we cover tonight?
A new record.
We just missed pickleball. It was the only.
Yeah,
it was football and there was baseball.
We did the top 4.
It was basketball.
The top 4. Yeah. We mentioned the WNBA just by saying WNBA.
There you go. Yeah. So not bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Cool. All right. Anything else we got?
Nope.
No, I think that's it.
I think we are good. Good show.
All right,
good
Johnny,
show
let it rip.
Right. On that note, we will wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search us. And of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch every other Wednesday around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on our audio host, Spreaker, as well as everywhere that you find your audio podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Watch all the sports. Watch the basketball playoffs. Keep an eye on everything else. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks, folks. Take care. Cheers.
No, still preseason in the WNBA.
It is.
We'll let you know when it starts. I think it's the middle of the month.
We'll keep you posted. There you go.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody.